Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? I realize that today is February the 15th, and it's a very important day. You want to know why? Because on April 30th, in just about 2.5 months, every registered Caymanian voter, and I understand at this stage it's over 26,000 registered voters, they will have a chance to go to the polls to vote for the next group of 19 MPs who will represent and govern this country for the 2025 to 2029 election cycle. This is a very important date. Also on that date will be the opportunity to weigh in on 3 key questions as it pertains to the referendum. But my video today is to not focus on the referendum. My video today is to focus on the elections itself. I would like, first of all, to applaud everyone who signed up to vote, every young person especially. And I would also like to applaud the people that encouraged our young people and everyone else to go vote. Doesn't matter if you are a sitting MP, a prospective MP, or just someone in the community. Thank you for encouraging our folks to vote. But that's only step one. You're now a registered voter. Now what? You're now in one of 19 constituencies, and you now have the opportunity to choose which prospective MP, either the incumbent or newcomer, represents not just your constituency, but represents the country for the next 4 years. It's a very big decision, and I don't know how people make their choices. It should be about who is best for the job, who is the most qualified, and who is willing to listen to the voice of the people and make real change happen. And I think at the core of it, everyone who has put themselves forward as a prospective MP has good intentions. I don't think anyone gets into this for personal gain. Yes, the salary is attractive, but I would like to believe that everyone that has put themselves forward as a prospective MP wants to do some good for the country. Now, some are running as a part of a wider political group, loosely termed as a party. Some folks are running independent. Some folks have a loosely grouped version of that, which I'll just call a coalition. But there are different options. But when you're looking at the MPs or prospective MPs for your constituency, you need to understand a few things. So yes, everyone is well-intentioned. Yes, everyone wants change. Yes, everyone wants to be that person that brings about change. Yes, people want to address cost of living. Yes, people want to address traffic. Yes, people want a brighter future for our Caymanians. I think regardless of what political platform you run on, we all share the same views. We may differ in ideology. We may differ in the advisors who are behind us to achieve these things. We may differ in approach. We may even differ in governance. Some parties, they formulate their ideas and they push that out to the people. Some are doing more of a grassroots movement where the people are given a chance to have their say, and then based on that, they craft their manifesto. Now, one thing I need to highlight is our current budget is $1 billion. Okay? $1 billion. I remember when it was 500 million. I remember it when it was 800 million. Now it's at $1 billion. What I need everyone to understand is when your prospective MP comes around to you and they make promises, so maybe it's, I don't know, free healthcare for children, maybe it's building a new road, maybe it's building a new high school, maybe it's doing something with immigration policy so that Caymanians feel like they have more chances in their country. There's many issues, and I think at a high level we agree on the issues. But what you need to understand is when your MP is elected, so let's say they form part of the government, that's great. Some MPs may not form part of the government and they may be in the official opposition or just the opposition. But the fact is, let's say the MP you chooses is successful and they form part of the sitting government. Once they're elected, the job only starts at that point. Now at that stage, the elected government needs to work with the civil service based on the existing budget to understand, based on the 20 or 30 different promises or initiatives that were proposed on the campaign trail, which ones can actually fit within the budget. Because what folks need to understand is revenue is what funds these expenditures, right? So if there's a new initiative, for example, let's talk about school lunches a few years ago. I was a part of the group that looked at what would be the cost if every child in a government school had a free lunch. And the price tag, I won't reveal the exact number, but it was millions of dollars. So for that initiative to go ahead, it meant that the money had to be found somewhere else. So either a project had to be reduced or had to be canceled, or something else had to be postponed for a later date, or indirectly through increased revenue measures, those things are funded. So when your prospective MP promises something like that, or like free healthcare, if it cannot be accommodated within the existing budget, what then has to happen is that the government needs to work with the Ministry of Finance to figure out how exactly some of these initiatives can be funded. So I know sometimes we go, hey, we've elected people, why after 4 years is this not done? In most cases, it's not that your MP just made you an empty promise, right? It's the reality of the fact that we have a budget. And in that budget, there are going to be infinite needs, but a finite source of funding. So when your MPs or prospective MPs are making promises, definitely ask them to explain to you how exactly do they believe that this could be implemented, because that will be very important. Because if they are proposing things that can't be accommodated within the existing budget, what it then means is that we now need to go back to the drawing board and we need to look at all revenue streams. So do we increase license fees and financial services? Do we increase something like tourism accommodation tax? We increase those things, laws of economics apply. There's a potential that if we increase these type of fees, it could very well have an impact on demand. And that's something that we need to understand and we need to appreciate. If we do something like increase work permit fees to then fund something like free healthcare, sounds good on paper, but the fact is, it means that businesses are now potentially, when they look at their margins, they're now being squeezed. And yes, we can say that businesses can afford to absorb the additional costs. Maybe some can, maybe some can't. But in some cases, they'll decide, okay, well, based on these additional costs, if I can't pass them on to clients, what else can I do? And in some cases, they decide to downsize, and inevitably, that turns around and affects our people as well. So these things all have an impact. So my advice, ask the questions, try to understand exactly how do they believe that they will fund whatever initiative they're proposing. And if it can't be funded from the existing budget, try to understand from their perspective, how will they be able to fund it? Will it be a new source of revenue? Okay, fine. What will the impact then be on, the jurisdiction? Because at the end of the day, this is circular. We increase the cost of doing business here, it impacts the level of business coming in here. Inevitably, that then means that there's less money to go around. I look at something like traffic, and I know it's a hot issue. We sit in traffic for an hour and a half every day, and we want something different. The East-West Arterial, of course, if things continue as they are, might be one of the only options that we can consider. But that has, I think, a multi-million, so not even like 20 million, it has like hundreds of millions in terms of budgetary impact over the future. And I agree, our people, not even in the eastern districts, anyone who doesn't live in town and is coming into town, they deserve immediate relief. But when you look at something like the East-West Arterial, how are we going to fund something like that? I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm not saying we should, this is not a political video, but just understand that cannot be fit in the existing budget. So if we need to fund something like that, it means that we need to find revenue from additional sources. It may mean, unfortunately, that to fund something like that, cost of living then becomes more expensive. It could also mean that our children, their children, and generations to come will have to pay the price of some of these decisions. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I am saying that everything has to be considered in its entirety. So with that being said, that's my perspective. I don't think we necessarily have all the answers right now, but I think collectively as a country, we can put our heads together and come up with solutions that can work, come up with solutions that don't mortgage our future for short-term relief. I know with elections, folks feel like they have to pick a party. You have to be party X or party Y or whatever it may be. And I've seen what elections has done to this country at times. At times it has ripped our country in 2 or 3 pieces. And that's not the Cayman I know. For us to move forward in this tough world right now, we have to stand together. So I'm saying this to everyone watching, especially those who are running for election. Whatever happens on April 30th, whoever is successful, whoever is not successful, I need you all to remember at the end of the day, we need to think about the future of Cayman. And it doesn't matter who gets credit for doing it, we all benefit from it. So as much as possible, let's try to stand together as a people. Let's try to put our heads together to come up with the best solutions, because so much is at stake. It's not just about us, it's not just about our children, it's about generations to come. And honestly, certain things that we're paying for now are because of decisions that were made in the years gone by. So in closing, this election, I believe, is the most critical election we will ever have. And we can't afford to get this wrong. We cannot. So together, Cayman, let's stand together as one country. Let's stand together, let's brainstorm, let's come up with the best and the most sustainable solutions for all the things that affect our country. It may mean some short-term pain, but we need to think about the years to come in the future. There's so many issues that one person or one group cannot necessarily come up with all the answers to. So let's stand together and let's be one Cayman. Thank you.